A huge thank you to patron Noreen23505 for suggesting today's video topic. If you want to suggest a topic for next Wednesday's Name Explain video, all you have to do is support Name Explain on Patreon for $1 a month. Find out more by visiting patreon.com/nameexplain, which we linked down below. Anyway, palindromes are a fun quirk of language. This is the name we give to words that are spelt the same backwards as they are forwards. Take words like dad, kayak, level, and radar in example. They can even extend to entire sentences too, like was it a car or a cat I saw, and the sentence go hang a salami, I'm a lasagna hog. Most of the time these palindrome sentences are pretty nonsensical and exist just to prove a point. The longest palindrome word in English is the 12-letter word of twalatatat, which is meant to represent the sound of someone knocking at a door. It was coined by James Joyce in his book Ulysses. Beyond English, however, the 19-letter Finnish word of sapokya Vikupeas, which means someone who sells soapstone, is seen as the longest palindrome across all languages. These are words and sentences that have delighted and bewildered people for some time seemingly, as they have an incredibly long history. Palindromes are believed to have been around since at least the 3rd century BC, during the time of ancient Greece. The Greeks were terrific ponderers and wordsmiths, so it's no major surprise to hear they too were curious about these words. While we know they enjoyed palindromes this far back, we have no actual evidence of palindromes they used. Concrete proof of palindromes came a few centuries later in the 1st century AD. It comes to us via the Romans and their mysterious sator squares. Sator squares cropped up all across the empire, with the earliest evidence we have of one being in the ruins of Pompeii in around 62 AD. Sator squares consist of the Latin sentence sator arpo tenet opera rotas, written on a 5x5 grid. It's believed to translate into meaning something along the lines of the Soa Arpo works the wheel with care. What's so impressive about this sentence is that not only is it the same backwards and forwards, but when put in a square and read from left to right, top to bottom, right to left, bottom to top to bottom, left to right, and bottom to top, right to left, it says the exact same thing. It's incredibly satisfying and understandable as to why it was so popular in Rome. We don't, however, entirely know what it means. It could have had some deeper meaning, or it might just have been a fun thing to write, the coolest of its time. Its legacy even continued into the Middle Ages, as in medieval Europe, people believed the sator square had magical properties, and could even heal people of things like rabies. There's even evidence of people using the sator square for magical healing reasons as late as the 20th century. Sator squares aren't the only example we have of a palindrome supposedly having metaphysical powers, as the Greek palindrome of nipson anomenata mimona opsim, meaning wash the sins, not only the face, has been found on holy water fonts from the 4th century AD onwards. This once again was people using these palindromes in hopes that they had magical powers. In this case, they would enhance the waters of the font. And for the record, I'm not dismissing the idea palindromes have magical powers. If reading a palindrome helps you feel better when you're sick or gives you more confidence, you do you. Maybe next time I'm unwell, I'll read a sator square a few times and come back to you with the findings. And if you haven't noticed by now, my throat is shot right now. I'm managing people, but clearly I should go read a sator square or something, but let's carry on. What this ultimately shows us is that palindromes have been a source of wonder and amusement for literally thousands of years. Before we had the world at our fingertips to keep us occupied and pass the time, we had palindromes. While they have entertained us for so long, there's one aspect of them which has infuriated and confused people, that being the name of palindrome itself. This name for these kinds of words seemingly annoyed people because it isn't a palindrome unto itself. Palindrome backwards obviously does not spell out palindrome. It would be really cool if it did, but clearly that is not the case, and personally, it doesn't really bother me all that much. The names we use for specific kinds of words rarely contain the properties of the words they are the umbrella term for. Like the word acronym isn't actually an acronym for a longer sentence, and the letters of the word anagram can't really be moved around to make another well-known word. These examples fly under the radar, while palindromes get all the scrutiny. In reality, there never really was a chance of palindrome ever being an actual palindrome, and this all stems from how this word was actually coined and formed. Palindrome entered the English language in the first half of the 17th century. Many sources like to point to English writer Henry Peacham as the one who introduced the word to English in 1638, but the OED has proof of the word appearing in English 2 years earlier in 1636, so I guess it's safe to assume it appeared at some point in this time period. Either way, the word didn't just drop out of thin air. Palindrome is actually the English language adaptation of their older Greek name. While we have no evidence of actual ancient Greek palindromes, we do know that they called them palindromos. The Greeks would have formed this word of palindromos in the same way they formed the majority of their words, by smushing together two established words or word elements together. The former part of the word, palin, means something along the lines of back again, while the dromos part of the name means running. Collectively, this Greek word of palindromos means something like running it back again. And this makes sense as the whole gimmick of these words is the fact they mean the same thing if you go through them in either direction. And of course, it was this Greek word that got adapted into palindrome in English. What this means is that if you want to blame anyone for not making the word palindrome a palindrome, blame the Greeks. It's clear that they were incredibly strict when it came to word formation. Take other words which were of ultimately Greek origin, like hippopotamus, which is a combination for their words for horse and river, and telescope being a mixture of their words for far and watcher. For all the great things the ancient Greeks gave us, and how instrumental they were in shaping the modern quote-unquote Western world, we can probably forgive them for not making palindrome a palindrome. While this fact upsets many people, there is actually another category of word that the word of palindrome is able to fit into. While palindrome isn't a palindrome, it is an emordnilap. This is the name for a group of words which require a different meaning when read backwards. Take wolf and flow, or stressed and desert, or denim and mind. These are some equally fun words, and they are more correctly known as anadromes. This too is of Greek origins, with drome meaning running yet again, and the ana part means backwards, so the word means running backwards. These words picked up the name emordnilap in more recent years, and its origins are fairly self-explanatory. If you couldn't guess, emordnilap is simply the word palindrome spelled backwards. There's a bit of debate over the validity of this word, however. Snopes have a whole article declaring it's not a real word, and it doesn't appear in any major English language dictionary. Yet even so, it's picked up traction with language users. And if enough people use a word in a specific way with a specific meaning, then that, my friends, is a word. Snopes and the dictionary will just have to play catch up. Also, emordnilap has to be a real word, as otherwise palindrome can't technically be considered an emordnilap. A word can only be considered an emordnilap if its reverse form has an established meaning and we all agree that it's a word. Like, we're all happy to call wolf and flow an emordnilap because we all accept that wolf and flow are words with meanings. Armadillo is not an emordnilap, however, as olidamra is not a word with any defined meaning. Someone should really do something with armadillo backwards though. It sounds great. Make it a Pokemon or something. But what this means for palindrome being an emordnilap, however, is that we can only consider it an emordnilap if we all agree that emordnilap is an actual word in the first place. It's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy thing. This is all becoming super off tangent, and I've said emordnilap way too many times for someone with a sore throat at the moment. What I'm trying to say is that while palindrome is not a palindrome, it can technically be an emordnilap, which is kind of the opposite of a palindrome. But if you really want palindrome to be a palindrome, then I have an answer for you. Just make up a whole new word for them. In theory, we could make up a new word for palindromes which actually is a palindrome, and if enough people use it, then it could supplant palindrome as their go-to name. With this school of thought, it could be literally anything. Like, we could all declare that Tupat or Benignadeb is the new name for palindromes. But if we are doing this, I'd like to put a tad more thought into it. I would rather find a word that is not only actually a palindrome, but also connects to the concept on something of an etymological level. And after racking my brain for a solid 12 seconds, I came up with the word of oppo. Oppo is very much a palindrome, but also reflects the idea that a palindrome is the same in the opposite direction, with the word oppo simply being a clipping of opposite. It's not the smartest idea, I'll admit, but in the limited time I arbitrarily give myself to make these videos, it's the best I could come up with. A lot of the people who watch these videos I know are way smarter than me, so if you have a great idea, please let me know down in the comments. Maybe we can collectively find the perfect name for palindromes which, you know, is actually a palindrome. Right, I need to go get a lemon sip, I'm out of here. Name Explained depends on viewers like yourself supporting the channel financially on Patreon, so a huge thank you to everyone who does. Donating just $1 a month helps the channel amazingly and gets you bonuses including ad-free videos, exclusive content, the power to request ideas to be made into actual Name Explained videos, and your name at the end of the video with all these awesome people. Visit patreon.com/NameExplain or click the link down below to find out how you too can support the channel. Thank you. Thanks for reaching the end of the video. Why not watch another and subscribe to keep up to date on all things Name Explain. You can find myself on Instagram where I'm NameExplainYT, and join the Facebook group Friends of Name Explain to talk with myself and other name nerds. All that will be linked down below. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and once again, thank you all so much.